Good morning. It's good to see you today. Come on with us to Joshua chapter 5. Joshua 5. Israel has crossed the Jordan River, and all of a sudden, there they are. They're in the shadow of Jericho, in the shadow of their enemies, and the Lord gives a command. It's not a command you would expect. He says, tells Joshua, make flint knives for yourselves, and circumcise the sons of Israel again the second time. I wonder why he did not tell them to do that on the other side of the Jordan River when the river would have offered them a little protection. It's because the Lord's ways are higher than our ways, and he's trying to teach them a lesson. There's a number of things we could pull out. Consider just a few. We're going to talk about, even in the presence of our enemies, what can we do? One thing is, we can remember the covenant that we enjoy. It's not the old covenant. It's the new covenant that's built on better promises, that's built on better blood, that was built by a better high priest. And we can remember that covenant. And if we are not as dedicated to that covenant as we need to be, we can dedicate ourselves and we can renew it in our minds and in our hearts. We remember that covenant that was made. Something else, though, is we can be weak. Even in the presence of our enemies, we can be weak. These men, consider, they were going to have to learn, as they were circumcised, they had to learn to trust in God. They were going to have to learn to depend upon God. They were vulnerable in the presence of their enemies. They had to learn that this battle was going to be won not by their strength. The Lord was their defender. Now to read on at verse 8, it says that they stayed in that camp until they were healed. Even in the presence of our enemies, we can be healed. That is the power that the Lord has. Even there, his healing hand can be upon us, and we can be made whole. Consider it. Something else, though. Verse 10, it says they kept the Passover there on the plains of Jericho. Even in the presence of our enemies, we can remember our release from bondage. We can remember our release from slavery. And understand, we're not talking about Egypt at this point. Of course, in Joshua 5 we are. But our Passover, according to 1 Corinthians 5, is Jesus Christ himself. Our Passover was sacrificed for us. Even in the presence of our enemies, we can remember our Passover. It would go on, verse 11, it says, they ate of the produce of the land on the day after the Passover. The manna would stop before the battle at Jericho ever happened. Here's the thing. Even in the presence of their enemies, where were they at? They'd crossed the Jordan. They were in the Promised Land. Even in the presence of our enemies, where are we at? We are in the kingdom of God, even there in the presence of our enemies. Colossians 1, verse 13. You can look it up for yourself. Hope you enjoyed this study. God bless you. Be a blessing to others. We hope to see you tomorrow morning.